Hi, my name is Tara Kachataroff, and I'm the host of Michigan Entrepreneur, where we feature businesses from startup to stellar. Today, I have as my special guest Tom Borg of Tom Borg Consulting. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Tara. It's always a pleasure to be here.
It is, and today we're going to have a wonderful discussion around networking and how important it still is, even in the post COVID era. But before we jump into talking about networking and how beneficial it is to our businesses, why don't you tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do at Tom Borg Consulting?
Well, I'm a business consultant that works with a number of small and mid-sized businesses. My real focus is working with them in the areas of leadership, communication, and culture. So, in a nutshell, we help them solve their people problems and help their leaders excel.
All right. And people problems is what we're here to talk about today, but we're going to relate it to networking. So, we're going to be talking about social networking, literally socializing with other people, as opposed to all the other kinds of networking out there. But why don't you tell us and start off with why is networking so important and why is it even more important now post COVID?
Those are great questions. Right off the start, the reason why it's so important is we need to continually be connecting with people that can help us grow our business. And certainly after the COVID time that we all went through the last 3 years, uh, that kind of got a little bit strained because we weren't able to be physically at location with people so much. Now that that's loosened up and we're pretty much back to normal, it's important that we reconnect with people and develop those relationships and strengthen those relationships as we move forward and just serving the people we're trying to serve through the businesses that we all own.
And what's why is it more even a little more important now than it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago?
Well, because the world has changed, we're more advanced in the way we communicate with each other, and that personal contact is still one of the most effective ways to develop business relationships with our clients and our potential clients. So that just being there, just adds so much more to the situation because people can see you, they can hear you, they can sense your presence. It's just much better than just being on a Zoom call or a telephone call.
I really think it brings like another dimension to who we are. And I think it makes us stand out because people really need real people. We can't all be looking at, um, flat screens all day and really
Hmm.
creating relationships like that, no matter how much we want to think we do that. But yeah, I totally agree with what you have to say there. Now, networking is a little different now. There's not as many opportunities running around, online and places to go and events and, multi-day types of summits and things that we used to go to. Um, why don't you tell me a little bit about what you're seeing out there in terms of events? I mean, I'm sure you're not seeing as many as you used to see, and I know I'm not, but do you see things coming back?
Oh yes, oh yes. Things are coming back. I was at a networking event last week, as a matter of fact. Good crowd, quite a few people there. The live event where we were hosted by a banquet facility. But yes, there's more and more that's happening. But I'll tell you what, people did get used to being able to communicate with people from home and not having to drive someplace. So that has definitely influenced the networking that we're seeing today. There's not as much of it just yet, and I'm not sure it's going to return to the same levels it was at before because of the way we've been educated and given the opportunity to develop our abilities to connect with people, not in person, but online or in some other manner.
And when you were at this event, it's just kind of want to know a little bit more about it. Did you find people kind of back to the same thing? Like, were they shaking hands? Were they standing together in groups? Was it all kind of back to normal in what you were seeing?
Yes, yes. It was for the most part, people were outside, inside. They were shaking hands. There was food being served. I did. You could sense some people didn't want to get too close to you while they were talking,
Hmm.
which is understandable. But for the most part, it's very, very similar to what it was, 4 years ago.
Yeah, good to hear. Good to hear. Haven't been to any events this year, but maybe next year we'll see.
Hmm.
When we talk about networking, there's so many different things about it, from getting prepared to actually what you do when you're at a networking event, and of course the post-event follow-up. But what are some tips that you could provide about what you should do before going to a network event? And even, being strategic in where you go, because now we have to, get all dressed up to go do things and get in a car. So we probably are thinking a little bit more about going to an event, whereas before we just go to everything. What are some tips that we can do to prepare us before an event so we can be more effective?
Well, I think first off, one of the best things to do, of course, is to have a plan, have a strategy. So why do you want to go to this event? I mean, what do you hope to accomplish? This is important to answer those questions up front. So what I always tell my clients when we're talking about this topic is part of that plan should be to contact whoever's hosting the event and, if possible, secure a list of the people who will be attending or who have signed up to attend. So you go through that list and prioritize who are the people you want to meet on that list, right? You can't meet everybody, there's not enough time for that, but you want to prioritize who it is you want to have the opportunity to meet. That's critical. Now, the second part of that is once you get there, uh, have this worked out with the person who's hosting the event. Ask that person to introduce you, personally introduce you to these people individually. Those maybe three or four people that you've selected. That's powerful when you have that person who's hosting the event go out of his or her way to introduce you to this person you want to meet, rather than just walking up and introducing yourself, which you can do, but it's a lot more uh, professional if you can have it done by way of introduction through a person that's hosting the event.
Love that idea.
Hmm.
Love that idea. Yeah, that can really make a difference. Are hosts typically open to revealing the list of attendees?
Yes, yes, they are. I mean, let's face it, if you're paying to go to the event or you're attending the event and it's a free event, it's important that they want people to have a successful time when they're there.
Hmm.
So it's important that they help that person who requests some help. I've seen no problem with that in the past. They better be, or they're not a very good host, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, actually, that's a really great idea to really make it the most of your time while you're there, because I know you only have so much time, and if you're eating, that chews up a lot of time, literally and figuratively. Um,
Hmm.
so I think that is a great idea, and I like the fact of or the idea of having the host introduce you, because that is just their authority is conferred onto you, and that is just a wonderful way to make connections, because it's kind of like a testimonial without being an overt testimonial.
That's
So
right.
yeah, wonderful ideas there. So, time is of the essence when you're at an event. We all know how quickly the night goes. If it's a fun event, it goes by even faster. If it's not, well, we know it kind of drags. But what's an approach when you get there? I know you may have the list and you may not, but um, how do you make the most of your time there? I mean, should you eat beforehand so you don't eat as much and spend time eating there? What kind of strategies might people employ to really optimize the time frame?
Well, what I would recommend is don't eat. Maybe get a drink or something that you can handle and you look like you're sociable. But eating, if you can, I would delay that to the end, or don't eat at all, right? Because, you know, things happen when you're eating. Something gets on your mustache or on your blouse,
Yep.
or maybe fork falls off your plate. It's awkward. So I recommend don't eat, until the very end if that's what you need to do. But uh, you know, present yourself in a way that's easily uh, presentable.
What's another time saving strategy? And I agree with the eating thing. I usually eat before I go to things.
Hmm.
So, what's another option people have for saving time when they're at an event?
Well, certainly, one thing to do is if you're going to be giving out a business card or hope to exchange business cards, you're going to want to have them in a place where you can access them easily. Sometimes what people recommend is to have the cards you want to give out in your right pocket, and the ones you receive from other people in your left pocket, right? So that way you're not fumbling. And please don't go there without a card. Right? It's important to have a business card. What's more important is to get the other person's business card. Should it be an appropriate ask? If it's something that's something in both of your, if the other person's interest and your interest to exchange business cards, then that would be important to do that.
Yeah, and for somebody like yourself who has a number of books out, it could be even a great way and say, hey, I'm going to follow up and I'll send you a copy of one of my books,
Hmm.
and just mail it to them because that will be really memorable too. And I guess in your case, you could even have a card for your book, the one that, one that you want to give to them and say, hey, I'm going to send this book to you.
Hmm.
Um, if just send me your card and we'll pop it in the mail.
Hmm.
To me, that is a really memorable way to stay in somebody's mind, and that's a benefit of being an author like you are.
Hmm.
So I'm sure you've probably done that in the past.
Oh yeah, a
Yeah,
book is a great business card in
it
its own
is.
way.
It's a big one, but it's a big business card. It is a good one.
Hmm.
So once you're actually at the event, you walk in the doors, you check out the room, you're starting to read name tags and go around. Um, what's the best approach when you start opening up those conversations? Just how do you want to how what's one of the best approaches to use? Because
Well,
people
I
always
think
say, I don't know what to say.
yeah. Well, the
That's not my problem, but
first thing to do is ask good questions. Ask a good question. Uh, that you can certainly have some questions prepared, but certainly you want to be able to introduce yourself. And a good way to introduce yourself is to use the fill in the blank method. That comes from good old Joe Girard, where you see somebody you want to meet, you walk up to them, you say, hello, my name is Tom Borg, and your name is? So they're going to fill in the blank. It's easy for people who want to fill in the blanks. So this way, first thing you want to do is get their name. That's important. Now, they may have a name tag on, but it doesn't mean anything as much as when you're actually shaking that person's hand and exchanging names. That's very helpful. That's very important.
fill in the blank is brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant because people automatically know what to do.
Hmm. Yes.
It makes it easy for them to converse. And then if you ask the next question, so what do you do? Fill in the
Hmm.
blank.
Well, there's a number of questions you can ask. Maybe not the first one would be what do you do, because if you've done your homework, you know who that person is, right? If you got that list, you might have gone on LinkedIn, looked them up, found out some things about their company or their position, and even maybe their history or background. Where you can say, I understand you went to University of Michigan, Dearborn. So you see that you already have something in common with that person when you've learned some things about them. And remember, people love to talk about themselves. So that conversation should be pretty much 90-10, which means it's 90% about them, they're talking, you're listening, and then the 10% where it's appropriate for you to share a few things about yourself.
And you mentioned LinkedIn. It also be kind of fun ahead of time as you're going through and researching is go ahead and connect with them and say, hey, I'm going to be at this event. I see that you're going to be there too.
Hmm.
Let's connect on LinkedIn. And that gives you both an opportunity to start looking over the bios and the background.
It's a great example. It's a great point there, Tara. That's a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah, and it's another connection point besides that business card. So, yeah.
Hmm.
So what's one more thing that you might suggest people do when they're at the event besides, having a chat, um, exchanging business cards, getting to know them a little bit more? What do you want to leave that conversation with? What's one of the last things you want to say to somebody when you're conversing? Is it about you'll follow up or I'll send you a book or what might somebody do or what's some ideas?
Well, I think those are great ideas that you're mentioning right there. And certainly in that conversation, we want to help them explore some of the things that are important to them. You might ask them, how's business, or what are the biggest challenges you're running into now? And then that's where you really want to be a helper. See, this is what networking should be all about. It's not about what you can do for me. It's more about what can I do for you. It's like
Hmm.
the old saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Be really genuine, be sincere. Don't be one of these people that walk into the room and they're trying to meet people every which way. And as they're talking to one person, they're looking over their shoulder, right? Looking at,
Yeah.
scoping out the room, see who else is more important that they should go talk to next. And that's so insincere, and people pick up on that immediately. So the key is to what can you do to help this person? Now, maybe it is sending them some information. Say, regards to this conversation, I've got a great article I can send to you, or let me send you the title of a book I think that might be helpful. But you do want to follow up with them, but be a helper. That's the key. Don't be a taker, but be a helper or a giver. That's the key, I think, when it comes to building your network. And it's not like you're going to meet this person for the first time and then sell them something. No, it's you're starting this relationship, a business relationship. So you might see them the first time, get a chance to know them a bit, then you'll see them again at another event after you've followed up. And that's how a relationship starts to build, and people start to know a little bit more about you, and they start to get an understanding of who you are and where you're really coming from as as an individual or as a business person.
Yeah, and I like that idea of, going there with the intent to help. And even, I guess you could ask and be so forward as to ask, how could I help you? Or um, here's one, like, if there was one question you have about business right now or about your business, what would it be? And if you can remember that answer,
Hmm.
you can take it home with you and find something to send them to follow up with that,
Absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes most people make. They go to a networking event and they don't follow up, or they don't really do anything with the information they've learned about the people that they've met. It kind of goes in one ear and out the other. Uh, that's not that's not a very strategic way of building your network through networking.
And as we touch back on when we first started this conversation, it really makes it even more critical because of people not wanting to go out to too many events anymore, and how much energy it takes, and momentum to even get to an event, of how important it is to be very strategic with everything that you do, but in a genuine way, but having that forethought, because it just isn't. I mean, before we could just say, yeah, we'll just go and see who we meet, but our time is just too valuable now. It's so
Hmm.
it really is. It really is different. So, when you're, wrapping up for the evening, and or maybe during the day, and you're at an event, um, what are some like notes or things that you might want to make for yourself before you take off for the day, before you leave that event? Is there any like kind of things that you do at an event just to make sure you have all your, I's dotted and T's crossed?
I think, again, have that game plan before you go into that networking event. Who do you want to meet? What do you want to accomplish? What's your next step after that meeting? How are you going to follow up? And maybe that's going to be determined after you've met the person. But I think the key there is then to keep in touch with that person. You might send them a note. Handwritten note would be a wonderful way to follow up, by the way. Just that's something that has shelf life, right? Not just emailing them, but a handwritten note. Then from time to time, send them an article of something, or something of interest, or a link to something that might be of interest to them. So the idea there is to begin that relationship and then continue the relationship. It's like any uh, good relationship. It's going to take time for it to develop, and people get to know you, like, and trust you. That's part of the whole strategy. We got to come across as real individuals, someone that really is sincere about helping other people, whoever it might be. Whether it's a person that can help you or not. Maybe it's a person you run into at the event, and there's no way you can ever do business with this person, but you can connect them to someone else at that in that event, or maybe outside the event, that would help that person. That's a person who really cares about other people. Do something to help that person, and that way you're really living your purpose of really helping people get what they need and want. That's really what it's about.
You know, you were talking about the host and connecting with the host in a unique way of getting the list from them. Do you follow up with the host at all after events? Do you ever reconnect with the host, and or as somebody attending their event? Do you suggest that people should contact the host or even thank them or do something special for the host? Because face it, even if we're paying for it, it still is a lot for them to do.
Hmm.
It's a lot to host an event.
Terry, you're hitting it right on the head there. That's absolutely correct. Yes, you should follow up with that host and say, hey, by the way, it was a great event. Thank you for introducing me to so and so. And again, you can write a handwritten note to that person. Again, that's going to be impressive, and it's going to show that you really are thankful for the person taking the time to introduce you. So yeah, hang thank you note or just a follow up phone call. Say, hey, it was great being at the event. Thank you for introducing me to so and so, and I'm hopefully I'll be able to help them down the road. So yes. You can think of that person as a center of influence. That person is hosting the event, and you want to stay on their radar screen. You want to let them know that, hey, you appreciate their help and that you're going to do good things with the people they introduce you to or refer you to. I just the other day had
Okay.
the Chamber of Commerce director. He sent me an email. Say, hey, Tom, I was at this event last week. He was there, and he said, "Hey, Tom, I just want to send along this person. I told her that you'd be a good person to talk to as far as some business consulting for her business. So, why did he do that? Because I constantly want to stay, because I stay in touch with him, and he knows that I'm a sincere person when it comes to helping the people that are members of his organization.
Wow, that is a super great example. Thanks for sharing that because um, it makes them look good too when they can connect with other members and just because that's the whole idea of a chamber of commerce. It's to help people get to know each other and help each other together and grow in the community. So, wow, what a great example! Great
Thank you.
example. Question I have about events because this sometimes comes up. People attend the events, but sometimes you're given an opportunity to be a sponsor for an event that you're going to. Do you think there's merit in that? Or, I mean, I know there's a lot of factors that go into whether it's a good idea or not, but do you think it's important for people to sometimes become like a sponsor, whether it's a gold, silver, platinum, or bronze sponsor? What do you think about things like that?
I think that's a great idea, and it should be part of their overall marketing plan where they're going to put so many dollars into sponsorships. Yes, it does put you on a level above the average attendee to an event when you are a sponsor. So, yes, if that's something that you can budget for, make it part of your ongoing marketing plan, I think it gives you a real advantage in those situations.
Have you ever been a sponsor for an organization? Have you ever sponsored events, been a sponsor?
I have sponsored things and not so much the event, but maybe they might have something that you could contribute to, or you'd be maybe for instance, I've taken my books and I've let them use them as a raffle giveaway, right?
Oh,
So they would
yeah.
say, "Here's a book from Tom Borg, Making Service Count." So it does create some type of awareness of that person that he is an expert. So in small ways, I've done it that way, but sponsoring a whole event, no.
Tom, speaking about that book, Making Service Count, which is like an amazing book. If you're in any kind of business, it's one of my favorite books. The first book you
Thank you.
ever gave me was that book. And you know, the fact that you brought up the thing about offering something that they can use as a giveaway, that's a fantastic idea because, sometimes the host is so busy, like running around like crazy trying to get this event put together. But even saying, hey, I'm happy to contribute like an hour of consulting or a book or a digital product, that's a great way to just, use it as a door prize or something,
Hmm.
which is, wow, that's a great idea. So
Hmm.
glad you mentioned that
Thank you.
because everybody has something they can offer in that way. There's something they can do
Absolutely.
in our businesses, whether it's, a tangible product or not. But yeah, that's super.
Hmm.
So have you ever followed up in any interesting ways with a client? Like, have you ever or with somebody you've met, have you ever gone and like invited people to coffee later or to a lunch, or have you ever brought together a couple people that you met at the same event and had a lunch together? Have you ever done things like that as part of your follow-up strategy?
Yes, absolutely. And that should be for everybody. So once you meet that person, like we mentioned earlier, that's only the first step.
Hmm.
Typically, what I'll do is if it's a person I do want to connect with afterwards, I'll send them an email, say, hey, was wondering if you want to get together, compare notes on what's working in your business, what's working in my business. So have a coffee. We'll meet you at Starbucks. So that's a great way of doing it, by the way. So it's something where it's mutually beneficial. That person is going to learn about what you're seeing it's happening in the business world, and you can learn from that person. Again, it gives you that opportunity to get to know that person, find out, hey, we're real people and we're just trying to do the best we can for the clients we're trying to serve.
All right. So if you had any events that you've gone to where you've seen people do some very unique things at an event while they're networking with others, have you seen anything that has really stood out to you when you're watching other people at events and seeing what they do when they're connecting with others? Anything that's ever stood out?
Yes, I can tell you some things not to do. Okay,
Okay, we'll go
that's
with that.
sometimes that's important because if we don't, that's a problem for a lot of people. There's things they're doing they think are okay and they're not. So I call it some of the things, the don'ts of networking. So for one, don't show up late and leave early, right? That's not being prepared. Also, don't do what we mentioned earlier. You get into the room and you try to, uh, you meet one person and you're talking to them and you keep scoping out the room for someone else more important to meet. Don't want to do that. Certainly, basic things, right? You go make sure your hands are clean. If you're, especially if you're eating food, that could be a problem. You get something on you and you go to shake somebody's hand. So be careful with your personal hygiene when you're at an event like that. And the other thing is too, when you're eating something, you might have something in your teeth. You know, a little bit cheese on your mustache. That doesn't look good. Okay.
Another reason not to eat.
Eat before you go, like you said earlier. So the other thing is, what you don't want to do is try to give your card to everybody in the room. You know, and I've seen this. You know, people go, "Oh, hey, how you doing? My name's blah blah blah. What do you do? Oh, okay, great. Here's my card." And then they move on. Like they think that's networking. People typically, after receiving a card from someone like that, they just kind of roll their eyes. You know, what was that? So don't do that, right? The other thing is when you're at an event, just be sincere. Have it first and foremost in your mind that you're there to help people. That you help if you can connect people to other people that you know of. I like doing that where I'm talking to someone and maybe I can help them down the road, maybe I can't, but this person should be talking to another person I know that's at that event, right? So I'll say, you know something, come with me. I want to introduce you to somebody. So be a person that introduces people to other people. That's a great thing to do
And that
when
and
you're
that
at
helps
a
you ease
meeting.
up the time too. It helps you make you less nervous about how you might feel at the event. Is
Sure.
be a host to somebody else. Great advice. Tom, you've just provided us with so much amazing information and tips and things today. As we wrap up, I'd like to ask you one final question, and if you could just give one tip when it comes to social networking, even if we've already talked about it, what would that piece of advice be?
I would say be real, be helpful, and be the type of person that has fun at these events. I think if you do that, that's a great combination to succeed.
All right. I want to thank you so much, Tom Borg of Tom Borg Consulting. Thanks for being a guest on the show today.
My pleasure, Tara.
If you'd like more information about our program, please visit us at www.michiganentrepreneurtv.com. Please join me again in the future when I interview another enterprising entrepreneur. Until then, wishing you the best of business.